much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Welcome to the show, the Stoke Cine Video Society live chat show. I'm Simon Williams, and I came here on the train today. I normally come in the cab, but I came on the train. And don't you meet some odd people on public transport? I was sat there minding my own business, and this little old man came and sat next to me, and he said, "Here, I managed to travel 200 yards in 3 seconds over weekend." I said, "Really? Are you some kind of athlete?" He said, "No, I were in a block of flats and fell down lift shaft." When I got off the train, I went to this cafe. I was walking past this cafe and I felt very reminiscent for some reason. And I went in this cafe and I said to the lady behind the counter, I said, "It was 20 years ago when I came here." She says, "Well, I'm doing my best. I'm being as quick as I possibly can." But anyway, talking about the trains earlier on, I'd like to bring on my guest this evening, ladies and gentlemen, whose family has worked on the railways. He's also a member of the Stoke Cine Video Society. He joined in 1953, and his latest job, actually, was working on the trains. He was an undertaker in a ghost train. I'm sure he's going to tell us all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kenneth Jupp. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simon.
So I believe that you've, your family started off in the railways all those years ago. How did that all start off then?
Well, my father's father, that was Charles, he was the works manager down at the Railway Carriage and Wagon Works at Stoke. Mm-hmm. My mother's father, that's Elijah, he was a workman in the same department. Right. And eventually when my father's father got to hear that his son was going out with the daughter of one of his workmen, he sent for this workman and threatened him with his job unless he told his daughter to take her hooks out of his son. But you can see how much notice they took of it. Uh-huh. Eventually they did get married, and I'm one of the 2 sons that Mum and Dad had. And then when my wife and I got engaged, both the grandparents were alive. They came to the engagement party. Right. And Mother's father said to him, Charlie, you were a hard taskmaster in those days." "I had to be to keep your buggers in check." Then Dad, when he worked on the railway, he joined the old North Stafford and then came on to LMS. He was a railway claims investigator. Right. Things that go missing from trains, like goods from the goods van or whatever. Uh-huh. He's even had himself locked into trains at night and deposited somewhere and just left there to find out who was doing the pinching. And there's lots of stories that won't bore you with now, but believe me, some of them are quite hairy. Right. So you yourself have worked on the railways? I wanted to go on the railway, but my father said, "You're not coming to work with me, get up and do something else." So I became a teacher. Oh, right. I finished up as head at the primary school at Cotton, near Oakham. Right. But at the same time, I had an interest in railways. I had a model railway out in the garden. Really? About 200 feet of track or thereabouts. Right. I had 4 live steam engines and 1 diesel electric. Right. I made all the track and the coaches, but I couldn't make the boilers of the engines. I'd just buy those ready-made and then do things to them, like put radio controls on or things like this. So you could control the steam engines? So I could sit on the old deck chair and toot toot and drive the train off from a distance. Right, so were these the big size ones that you could sit a child on, or were they just small ones? The track was 32 millimetres wide, which was so far, and the vehicles were 3 times that width, so I used that track as narrow gauge. Right, and do you still have this? No. While I was at work, it was fine to have once a year have an open day, and modellers from all over the country would come and bring their trains, run on my track. Then periodically I'd go and take my train and run on their track somewhere else. Right. But when I retired, it got too much for me, so I sold the whole stock, the whole effort, track, vehicles, the lots, to the Railway Society at Burton-on-Trent. So do you still visit your old track then? You go and have a look at it now and again? No, I've never been down since they've had it, but what happened, I've transferred my affections to the Churnet Valley Rail. It's the old North Stafford line down the Churnet Valley. Right. It starts at Leekbrook and goes down as far as the sand sidings at Oakham Hall. Okay, is this steam railway? This is steam, yes. And that's where I was taking part a fortnight ago in the annual Ghost Train, which happens on the last Saturday in October each year.
Right.
And then from 7 o'clock onwards, they run these trains at half-hourly intervals, or 40-minute intervals, I've forgotten. And 4 of us were undertakers, and we solemnly carried this coffin from a hearse down the platform through all the visitors onto the train.
Yeah.
And there were 4 people dressed as monks. There were ghosts all over the place. And then at the end of on the train journey itself, it went down to Console Forge, where there were actors already on the platform, in black suits but with bones in fluorescent paint on. And they were illuminated by fluorescent lights.
All right, and speaking of acting, you've done a lot of work with the Stoke Cine Video Society, which we will come to in a few minutes. We're going to take a commercial break now, but we'll be right back in a couple of minutes' time when we'll find out what Kenneth did with Stoke Cine Video Society.
Happiness is in a cigar, a mild and satisfying cigar, from you know who. Are your stain problems like hers? Soak 'em in Big D. Big D enzymes gently nibble away at stubborn food stains. There's nothing like Big D for removing stains. Happy birthday, dear Arthur. Happy birthday to you. Well, open your present, Arthur. It's from Fred. Oh, how thoughtful. A tasty tin of catter meat. Isn't catter meat marvellous meat with lots of liver and vitamins too? Arthur says vitamins never tasted so good. Which is just as well, because that's what everybody bought him.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. My guest this evening on the Stoke Cine Video Society live chat show is Mr. Kenneth Jupp, who was a former chairman of Stoke Cine Video Society, and I believe you came in 1953.
Yes, I joined then in 1953 as a very raw recruit to the club.
Right.
At that time, Stuart and Laurie Day were the kingpins of this association, but they were absent on a world cruise.
Right.
And all the other members at the time told me such fearful stories about this lady and this gentleman.
Okay.
And most of them were true.
Really? Do you have a for instance?
Eventually I took one of our children down to see Stuart over some little project we were working on, and this was our daughter Mary, and she'd be 3 at the time.
Right.
And went into their lounge, and little Mary's eyes were on this great big bowl of fruit. She couldn't take her eyes off this bowl of fruit. I thought, go on, Marty, give her an orange. She said, oh, the little dear's stuck by the coat, isn't she? You can hold this pencil, dear.
And that was it. She didn't get the orange after all.
Didn't get the orange after all.
Didn't get the orange after all.
No.
So how does it differ then to how it is now? Obviously, we're in the world of digital and modern technology. But in 1953,
yes, well, there were 3 gauges going in those days. There was 16mm, which was superb. There was 9.5, and there was 8mm. 8mm and 16 had a friendly rivalry. It was referred to as bootlace by the 16mm brigade. And undoubtedly, the 16mm brigade had got a point because their definition was superb.
Right.
But on 8mm, provided you didn't do long shots, provided you did close-ups and medium close-ups, you could really put on a reasonable presentation.
Right.
And I have at least one little happy memory that in an annual competition that both Gerald and I were contestants in, my film defeated his film. And I think his was Vincent in Venice. I think mine was The Burslem Scheme.
Right.
But that's by the by. Now, I think the best film, according to the Cine World that I ever did, I got 4 stars in the 10 best competition with the film I did on crystals, crystallization.
Right. And what incorporated that then?
Well, it was a question of getting a microscope with polar filters on above and below, putting some liquid solution of a salt on a slide and having a hairdryer off shot and starting the camera and the hairdryer at the same time. And in a matter of seconds, this thing will evaporate. And through the microscope, it would start with a blank screen, but as the crystals formed, all these marvellous colours would appear from nowhere and just go into a crystal shape.
And you got 4 points for that in the 10 best.
That is indeed.
But are you moving into the digital world now, or do you still use the old film?
Well, I transferred from cine to video about 12 years ago. I bought a little camera in Hong Kong on the way back from Australia.
Hong Kong?
And then more recently, well, the last time I went to Australia, I had a bigger camera then, but it got damaged in an accident. We were travelling along on a bus, a tourist bus, down some unmade road. It went through a puddle of seawater, which came through the window and drenched me in the camera. But since then, of course, the insurance coughed up and bought me another one.
Oh, really?
That was interesting. We went on the Indian Pacific Railway from Perth over to Adelaide, which takes 2 days to Adelaide or 3 days to Sydney, depends where you're going.
Right.
Which is quite a spectacular journey to take.
Goodness me. So the modern day films then, the things that we've had in competitions, for instance, like Dose of False Neville's Breakdown, things like that, do you have any plans to come in front of the camera as opposed to behind the camera? Do you like to film? Do you like to direct? Or
We had one film that I was involved in called The Whitsun Tide Gift, about a chicken, which was a bit funny. I think Brian Smith was one of the people in it. Do you know that, Brian? If he's here, yes, he must be in the audience somewhere. And he got soaked intentionally in the film because the part was he was walking as a hiker, he and his wife.
Right.
And he got splashed by a car going through the ford and drenched, but this was part of the script.
Goodness me. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to speak to you anyway, and good luck with anything that you do with the railways and the Cine Society. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest this evening has been Kenneth Jupp.
Thank you very much.